Alright, hello and welcome everyone on YouTube to another WWYU. Today we're talking about the Soma Prime with its Incarnon, which is disappointing. I will say I do think that this is potentially bugged because there's a lot of different ways that it can be bugged. But before we talk about that, here is the build for it. This weapon, it needs the Bane. Plain and simple, you do need to be using a Bane on it really to get where you are meaning to go. So that is unfortunate. It is still fine if you use like Serration or whatever, but it's not great. You also can use the Hadasaya if you're just planning on using the primary form of this, because I think the Incarnon form might be bugged to not be very good. And speaking of that, the Incarnon form turns this into a fully automatic shotgun. You get an AA-12 version of the Soma, but instead of getting the 30% base and the 3x crit multiplier and like the mediocre status, instead, you get 10% crit chance base and a little bit of a better critical multiplier, and you get a 2.8% per projectile base status, which is technically better than the status that's on the Soma. But yeah, you lose 20% crit whenever you Incarnon evolve it. There's a few things here that make sense for how this is weird and not how it should be. Number one is there could be meaningfully more base damage. Maybe a 0 was missed or a digit was missed somewhere. It could have been meant to be 100% base crit chance, which would obviously be very good, especially with the higher critical multiplier it obviously has. Or instead of 2.8 per projectile, maybe it was supposed to be 28. The decimal could just be in the wrong place. There's a lot of things that would instantly fix this weapon and make it like quite good. But as it stands, it really, really underperforms, especially compared to other Incarnons. And it just doesn't make sense to go from what the Soma stats are to what the Incarnon stats are, other than the crit multiplier, which is like the only part that really makes a lot of sense without the status changing significantly. But yeah, it's really, really strange. It's a very weird one. Even still, if you're going for like the Incarnon form, you still want to use a 100 munitions build, because even with 30%, that's 30% per projectile, and you're still going to get more slash damage even with this amount of crit across this many projectiles because of the way HM is calculated and the way status is calculated in general. Not going to go super deep into that. And otherwise, this build is pretty normal, and we run Prime Shred to give us some initial punch through. I will say, the choices on the Soma, the first one does have the ability to give you punch through, but that's only with armor over 450, and you probably want to use the Shred mod anyway on this, so you're already getting punch through. You could get some extra, though, if you happen to have armor over 450. I don't think that's super important. And the other version of Evolution 2 gives you 100 overshields whenever you kill an enemy with bleed, which, because this is a 100 munitions weapon, is not that uncommon. But the effect is also, like, not that crazy because the weapon's not that good. And then under our Evolution 3, we have a lot of mediocre buffs. Accuracy by 50% is fine. Makes it easier to get the headshots that this weapon is going to absolutely need because it is underwhelming. And for our Evolution 4, we have on reload from empty, increased damage by +4. This is base damage. It stacks up to 3 times. This does not fall off normally, or notably, which is important. And because our base damage is 12, we get 12 from this and then 12 from this. We get triple our base damage on the primary form. And on the secondary form, this performs just about the same as the 0.4 crit damage buff. But on the main form, which is arguably the better one, unfortunately, at this current time, this performs much, much better than the 0.4 crit damage because it is just mathematically more damage that you are getting because it is a like full 33% damage overall increase instead of the like 13, 14-ish% that the crit damage ends up being after mods and everything like that is applied. For that, yeah, that's pretty much what's up. We are using an Ether Sword, and there's a reason we're using an Ether Sword, because this is kind of a pain to just dump 600 rounds just to get the, 12 base damage. So there is a way around that. We are going to grab these guys. I'll just pause the AI real quick so I can show this off. If you just, like, shoot some dudes in the head, just get, like, whatever amount of Incarnon charge. Full charge is fine. And then just dump mag. If you dump your whole magazine, and then go to Incarnon and then melee, and then go back to your gun. I waited too long. You got to do it fast. Incarnon melee. You get the stacks, which you can see up in the top right. Now it's fully reloading my gun. Before, it was only giving us a few bullets in the magazine. But you do get the stacks for this. There we go. Now it only gave me like the 10. I did it fast enough. You have to do it pretty quick, but you can cancel out of like the reload that the Incarnon gives you, and you can cancel out of the Incarnon in general and get those 3 stacks pretty quick. So that's fine. It's a slightly faster way to stack this up if you get used to it, so you don't have to just, you know, dump 600 rounds. Yeah, you can also roll. Some people in chat are pointing out. I have chat off right now, though. But yeah, so yeah, it's a whole thing. Yeah, you can just do that. You can do the roll. I guess you don't need to switch the weapon. So yeah, you can do the roll out of it as well. Just hit the both buttons at the same time will do, it seems. I would have to exit this in order to show it because the UI bugs up top. But yeah, in the top right, sorry, it's behind the timer. It like goes up to ×3. I'm not going to move the timer because I do not want to risk breaking it. But yeah, let's show the weapon. It's fine. It's okay. I'm gonna unpause the AI. It is totally okay-ish. It does eventually kill them. Maybe someday. Honestly, our cat's probably going to do more than the gun is. Eventually, we get merciless stacks. Eventually. And then if I aim for headshots, it'll be okay-ish. Yeah. So yeah, it's the... Yeah, in the primary form, you can see with, like, the damage stacked up, it performs better than the Incarnon form. Like, fairly objectively, except for it's unfortunate that you have to reload the gun, which is sad at best. Like, it's sad at best that the main form, like, performs better. And even then, it's still not... I wouldn't call it good. But yeah, it's, pretty disappointing. Pretty disappointing. Really feels like there's just a number in the wrong place. But we're going to take it into Steel Path and then, you know, show it off. It should be good enough to do that. All right, Soma time. Yeah, it's just the case where we can't just remove, like, infinite things from the game. Right? Like, I think it's more about making, like, the mods that are, like Warm Coat, for example. It's better to give Warm Coat a purpose and like a reason and a thing that you can do with it than it is to just remove it. And like sometimes it's like, well, when's the opportunity for that, right? But like it's yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things you could do, like changing what Warm Coat does a little bit, and then like adding a thing for it. Like add like super deep cold areas on fucking Europa. And then make it so that Warm Coat makes it so that you're, like, immune to all cold. So its other effect is that it allows you to, like, dive into those areas without whatever negative effect is on them. So maybe a new player uses Warm Coat to go in there because they don't have, like, a super invincible Warframe that can just take it anyway. It's like, okay, well, that's, like, an interesting, like, okay, we have a reason for this mod to exist. You want it and you want to level it so you can, like, dive into the frozen vaults of Europa. All right, like, there you go. There's a reason for that mod to exist at that point. I think that's more interesting than... also, yeah, apparently I generated a lich. I think that's more interesting than, just, like, let's just remove all these mods, right? And it also creates, like, an interesting, like, aha for, like, a new player is like, I found this place, but I can't go in there. How do I go in there? And it's like, oh, Warm Coat probably dropped for you. You need Warm Coat in order to enter this area. Oh, yeah, I got to do the reload buff. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, there we go. There's all 3 stacks. What'd you do for Diamond Skin? Diamond Skin's what? Radiation? I mean, legitimately, you could have different, like, vault areas that have special mod drops. Or, like, nice mod drops, especially for new players in different areas, and have each of those different things affect a different area. Warm Coat for vaults on Europa. Diamond Skin for, like, radioactive areas of Ceres. Like, adding, like, some new tiles that are interactable with that. Like, basically give every planet a Silver Grove equivalent. Except for it's for, like, can you actually survive going into these type shit? Because, like, that makes a lot of the static areas of the game more like the Zaramon. Because the Zaramon has like side objectives, like, oh, I want to kill the angel, I want to collect these things off the ground, I want to do all this stuff, and that stuff is like intrinsic to that zone. If you're in the Zaramon tiles, those things exist and are other activities you can do. And that's part of what makes the Zaramon so good. So that like design philosophy as applied to older zones would be like worthwhile and interesting, I think. You could also like change where like Wormcoat and those types of mods are acquired to be like more static. So it'd be like you can kind of send people on like kind of a hidden quest to be like, oh, you need to go get Diamond Skin before you can come back here and get these vaults. Like Diamond Skin always drops on like, you know, some mission that doesn't really have a reward. Like maybe it's like, oh, the capture mission on Jupiter always gives you a copy of Diamond Skin. So you can go past Ceres, get Diamond Skin from that capture mission, and then come back to Ceres and dive these vaults for some of these useful mods that you're going to want. Maybe it's like a place that's like a good drop rate for Split Chamber or just the multi-shot mods in general. Like, there's a ton of design space that's open to that exact type of experience in Warframe. And like they could, you know, take the first one of those or whatever, or like an early one, and like make it part of a quest, and then just have the other ones interspersed throughout. Like do like an update that's basically like, you know, tile sets more interesting update. Because I think that stuff was really successful with the Zaramon and making it so that the Zaramon is its own thing and has like its own unique quirks. I think it's a mechanic in Warframe. You need to kill total status immunity on Nezha and Rhino, so they aren't the only choice. I mean, I don't think they are the only choice, right? But also, you could have like them still be vulnerable to those unique effects. Also, oh boy, the Acolyte. Oh, let me put the bubble on me. But come on. All right, visual bug, or not visual bug actually. Da 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 da. Just gonna armor strip you. Woof. Yeah, it's no Vasto. Go watch the Vasto video from yesterday. It's serviceable enough, though. Like, this is fine. This is fine. It just doesn't really feel like a lot of the other Incarnons. Like, unlike yesterday, whenever I was like, oh, the Vasto, well, it's not going to be the Lex, which is, like, fighting for best weapon in the game. In terms of secondaries, anyway. This one is like, oh, they made this gun usable. Mostly. It's just like kind of, I don't know. It's also not helpful that it's a worse version of another Incarnon with a Voltor. As far as the Nami solo is so slept on, is it slept on? I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. You guys in chat talk a lot of shit about like the melee weapons, and then like I pick them, and then they are dog shit trash. People in here being like, oh yes, it's as good as the glaive, and then no, it's not. It is, in fact, not even in the relative ballpark. You've only picked the bad ones, to be fair. I mean, I guess. But I ain't picking any more. Not until round 2 of these Incarnons, anyway. Then I'll see, like, the Ceramic Dagger, which is apparently good. Though I don't trust that it will stay that way. At least this thing with the plus 50% accuracy can, like, headshot with the shotgun form, like, pretty effectively. I cannot imagine not putting Shred on this. Schematic, game mechanic, like statistics existing. Sus. What? Bro, what the fuck happened just now? What the hell? Why? That guy took my gun, and it just said noise. What the hell? Yo, you finally got it? I got what? What the hell is that? What is the bug? That's been happening? What the hell? The foghorn? It's a bug with the Incarnons? I have never gotten that. What the hell? That is super jarring. It's on the Soma specifically, I think? Jesus. Well, maybe we're doubly sure this thing's bugged then. Oh, fucking what the hell? And it's just crazy that this weapon is like still being held up by Hunter munitions, and it's like just only this good. Like the fact that like the Vasto is not using Hunter munitions and is more impressive than this is crazy. Go ahead and pop one of these. I don't know, man. I'm one-shotting people with Chorus 1 and it uses the stat stick. Are you stupid? We're not saying don't use stat sticks. We're saying that as a design, it is stupid and bad. Yeah, the stat stick itself is not a problem. It's just that the design is stupid. Yeah, weapons also only being good as stat sticks is just dumb. It's like, ah, yes, you're good so that I don't ever use you. Amazing. They're good reload mod to add to most loadouts? No, not really. All right, everybody. Welcome to post-Duviri month, and thank you to all of the new and returning patrons. There are a lot of them, and it is hugely appreciated for the support. But we have our $10 patrons: Alex Parnham, Arbiter Daydream, Brutus Salazar, Dylan Dworsky, Athrain, Hafan, IQ is Thick, James Harsthorne, JC4 Science, Jesse Richens, Joshua Adams, Lou Zanth, Alec X. Williams, Minty Ginja, Mitchta, Paradise, Tamrielic Wastelander, Zach Zahner, and Zerafir to thank especially. But thank you very much to all of the new patrons and everybody that has jumped on board since like Duviri in this last month. It is hugely appreciated and really helps me run the site and just like get a lot of guides out. This month you can expect me to hit up as many of the Incarnons as I can possibly get my hands on, because that is gonna be a big focus here as we see that new stuff. And of course work on more guides and things with the free-to-play 3 coming back around and all that. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.